Good morning, students. Today I am going to discuss the TOEFL Speaking Task 6. I think this is the most difficult of all the speaking tasks because it is academic and it has no reading to support your understanding. However, there are some quite simple strategies I can advise you to use. Firstly, although the talk you will listen to might be about 1.5 minutes long, the important information is quite small. There are usually 2 important points in the talk, which is often some description of a method or behavior. If you can understand these 2 important points, you should be able to answer the question quite easily. They will also normally give 1 or 2 examples to support these points. It is important that you understand and remember these examples. As always, of course, note-taking is extremely important while you are listening. I also recommend you follow the same style as writing. Speak in exactly the same way you would write, using pauses to signify commas and full stops, and introducing new paragraphs with joining words such as on the other hand. With this talk, you have 20 seconds to prepare and then about 60 seconds to speak. And I recommend you use 3 paragraphs: introduction, then 2 separate paragraphs describing the 2 important areas. So now we're going to listen to a typical question, and then I will talk to you more about it. Try to pick out the 2 important points while you are listening. Okay, let's listen to the question.
Listen to a lecture in a business class.
Customer service is normally an integral part of a company's customer value proposition. Businesses have constant contacts with customers and try to know what selling points appeal to their customers. Recent research shows that customers rate time as a top priority and do not enjoy waiting. In response to that, each company tries to reduce the actual service time or let them think their waiting time has been reduced. Perceived waiting time is the amount of time people think they have been waiting to get the service. There are 2 ways to address these problems. The first way to reduce the perceived waiting time is to distract them with other things. For example, hospitals put TVs in the waiting room while patients wait to see their doctors. Hotels install a mirror in front of the elevator so people could look at themselves or adjust their clothing as they wait. The other way is to tell the actual waiting time to the customers. Customers who have waited only for 5 minutes mostly think they have waited for 10 minutes or more. So telling them the actual waiting time, in other words, making the actual time be the perceived time, will help out both the customers and the company. That is why you see a boarding board at the train station. The train stations provide the actual arrival and departure times so the passengers feel better. This lets them know they're not waiting more than they are.
The professor explained 2 different ways companies use to decrease perceived waiting time. Explain what these 2 methods are and how they are used in different situations. Please begin speaking after the beep.
Okay, students, now I hope you understood that. Often the beginning of a talk is not very clear and does not help you to understand the subject very well. This subject became clear when they started talking about how companies try to make the waiting time for customers seem to be less. So the first thing you need to do in your preparation is to simplify the question. Try to paraphrase the question in your own words in the simplest form. So what is the subject about? It's about waiting time for customers. People do not like to wait. They find it boring and annoying, and companies realize this and they try two different ways to deal with this problem. One is distraction, for example having a TV in the waiting room to entertain the people and make the time seem less. The other method is to make people aware of the real time so that they realize the time they have waited is not as long as they had thought. The examples are particularly important because they will allow you to talk longer. The example of the TV in the hospital and the mirror near the elevator in the hotel. Most importantly, remember this is a speaking test. It's not a test of your expertise of understanding the problem of customer waiting time. You just need to understand the basic idea and then to use good English and good grammar to demonstrate your high level of English. This is the really important thing, not your expertise in talking about the subject. So here's a model answer. We start with an introduction. The talk is about how customers deal with waiting time. Nobody likes to wait. For example, if we are in a queue in a shop and we have to wait several minutes, it is very boring and frustrating. Companies realize this is unattractive to customers, so they try two different methods to make this waiting more bearable for the customer. The first method is they try to distract the customer so they think the time is actually less than it really is. One method they mentioned for doing this, for example, is to have a TV in the waiting room. If customers can watch some entertaining program or soap opera while they are waiting, this can make the time pass really quickly. Another example they mentioned was in some hotels they will have a mirror by the elevator. While the guest is waiting for the lift, they can check their dress, comb their hair. If it's a woman, she can check her makeup. These activities will make the time seem far less because the guest is involved in some activity. Lastly, the other method mentioned was to give information about the actual time. For example, if you're waiting in a railway station, you have a big clock up on the wall where you can see the exact time you have been waiting. Companies believe that this will be effective in making customers realize that the actual time is much less than the time they feel. When you're waiting for a train, the minutes seem to pass very slowly, but when you look up at the clock you realize, oh, it was actually only 2 or 3 minutes. Okay, students, I hope you enjoyed that. To improve this skill, which is a combination of speaking and listening, you should try to listen to things such as news stories. For this I would recommend BBC. And while you are listening, try to make brief notes and remember the most important points of the talk, then try to summarize it in your own words. This practice will also help you to improve your English enormously, because the process of recording by note-taking will help to consolidate your understanding and improve your ability to express yourself in English. Thank you for listening.